we can get started here. I'll call to order the Plan Commission meeting on June 15th at 6:30. First up is approval of minutes, and actually that's the minutes from May, I believe, not April. All right, so it's the May minutes. Any changes to that?
Move approval.
So you have
One more note on this, I apologize, we have a bit of a typo in the minutes. If you reviewed them closely, you might have noticed that for a couple of the agenda items, the conditions weren't copy and pasted over, but those are, I do have them up on the screen if we need to review anything, or loaded on my computer rather. But they're the same as they were in the staff memo when we voted on them last month.
Okay, so does it have to be approved with changes as recommended by staff, essentially?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so if someone wants to do a motion like that.
So moved.
Moved by Ed.
Second.
Seconded by, I think I heard Stephen, that's on the second first. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, those are approved. I don't believe there's anyone from the public for non-agenda items. For agenda review, I would actually ask if someone would move G and H up to be after D. All of those are related to circle, and instead of making them wait for a couple agenda items, if someone would mind amending the agenda, that would be wonderful.
We'll move to amend the agenda to move 5H in front of 5.
G and H, actually.
Oh, G and H.
Yep.
5G and H in front of 5F.
How about 5E? Because D is the other circle one.
Oh, got it. In front of 5E.
There you go.
Second.
Seconded by Emily. All in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that has changed. Anything else we need to do, Sonia? No? All right, then let's get to it. First up is a minor PDD modification request on 5237 Verona Road. And is Dan here or some other? Allie, all right. Allie, do you want to speak to this for us?
Yes. So what we would like to do here, what Discovery Storage is proposing, is adding their lock logo, which is a big part of their brand, to the existing signage. And it would be 2 large locks that would get installed with either white vinyl or hand painted. They'd be white either way. And they're just looking to include this with the additional, or with their signage that is already approved. Basically asking for a 70 square foot increase from what had been previously approved at the Plan Commission. And yeah, if anybody has any questions about that, I can speak to that.
All right, Sonia, do you want to do a staff report?
Yeah, so there's a lot of background in the memo, just for the record, but I'll try to summarize a little bit more succinctly. And we also have a little bit of a spreadsheet here we put together since there were some questions on this last time it came before the Plan Commission. But in a nutshell, in 2019, the total signage that was approved through Discovery Storage PDD was 535 square feet. So that's the total of all of these different signage types that they had presented. This column represents today's request. So there are some modifications to different signs, a lot of them decreased in size compared to the 2019 submittal. The big difference is the addition of the 2 lock graphics, and I can show those on an image as well. Each of the locks are 143 square feet. They're proposing 2 for a total of 287 additional signage for just those 2 features. So they're at 667. It's a net increase of 132 square feet compared to what was approved by the Plan Commission before. And then this is an image of what they're looking at. It's the 2 lot graphics that we're talking about is this gray image here. And the elevation that you're looking at is the west elevation that faces Verona Road. For comparison, this is what it looks like without the lot graphics, these bare spaces here. And then finally, more procedurally, PDD zoning allows for the applicant to create their own signage plan that differs from Chapter 26. Chapter 26, there's a little bit of a comparison over here. It's the sign code. So for each facade, you can't normally exceed 10%. On the west facade with the lot graphics, they are at 13%. And then there's a second metric there. It says 10% of the facade not to exceed 150 square feet, but with the lot graphics and the signage, they would be at 532 square feet. So kind of close to the 10%, but far above the 150. I think the questions for the Plan Commission is what they're requesting in scale to the building. Is it oversigned? And do you have concerns about precedent for other projects?
Scott, is there a citizen that wants to speak, or was it ALER person registered? Okay, good. All right. So I guess then I can open it up to questions, comments from the Plan Commission.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Allie. Sorry. You stated that they would be white. In the graphic that Sonia just showed, they were like a darker gray. Can you confirm that they would be white and not gray?
Yes, they will be white.
Other comments or questions at all? Steven?
On the left side of the image where you already have the white lock, I'm curious what rationale is there to have a second logo of the same kind, of a different size but same color, and just kind of offset from your text?
Yeah, so those larger lock elements are a design element and something that they are incorporating throughout their brand. This is their second location nationally, and they're working with us, partnering with us to create their brand. And so this is something that we created with them, and they would really like to basically have this as a focal point. So it is important to them so that when people drive down that main Verona Road, that they see that lock and they know that it is Discovery Storage.
Yeah, I guess I would second what he was thinking as well, Allie. To me, it seems a little redundant to have both locks on that wall. I don't necessarily understand that.
Well, and also I think that the image is not doing us justice because it's not representative of what that actually looks like when it's a shade of gray against gray versus if that was actually a strikeout white like the rest of the logo is. I think you'd have a much different opinion of what that actually would look like. Do you have any images from your other site that you just referenced?
Yeah, and so the reason that larger lock looks a little more gray to your eye is the designer did that because it is so large, and on that building it's a different material than the LED illuminated wall sign that is going to be on the building. So that smaller lock, along with the Discovery Storage, that is a channel letter that it has a white stark face, and the graphic is actually going to be either a painted or a white vinyl, but it's not going to be as stark because it is a larger graphic. And if we paint it, it is not going to be that stark white. And if we are worried about it being stark white, I'm sure they're open to it being a lighter gray. And we incorporated this lock because if you do look at the image below, you can see the lock really fills up that empty dead space and that negative space. And it's just really a design element that they wanted to include, and it fits well within the building.
Other comments at all?
Yeah, in the respect that this is, really takes this signage out of step with what our normal signage ordinance would be. It's hard to look at this and say that this isn't a substantial change. And I mean, I think it is a substantial change when you're allowing something that potentially creates a precedent for exceeding what the sign limitations are. And it's really difficult to see any justification for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of in that same boat that 535 square feet was probably a little much. Now, there's a lot of directional signage as part of that, but that 535, I don't know if there's another building in the city that has that much signage. And I know we've had problems of other businesses along Verona Road, but especially along McKee Road, like Target and Hy-Vee, that wanted to put a lot more signage on their building than what they have right now. We've told them no. So to me, I guess I'm kind of in that same boat where 535 is probably too much, and I certainly am not in favor of going above 535 square feet. You know, if they're going to rearrange it, I guess as long as they keep to 535 or less, I guess I'd probably be okay with rearranging how that gets distributed. But to me, 535 is too high, and I'm not comfortable increasing it by over 600 to over 600 square feet either. Steven?
I was along the same lines going to propose, can we do one instead of both? And that would keep you under that 535. So same sentiment, though. I do think it is a bit overkill for where we're looking.
That's what I was thinking too, Stephen. Like the one on the right side where there's no lock at all, right? That you could add one there, and then on the other side, just leave the smaller lock image, not add that large one.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking, like, I'd give them the flexibility to do however they want and just say as long as it doesn't exceed the 535 we approved, I'd be okay with changes. But whether they want to do only one of them or rearrange other stuff, I think that's up to them. I don't want to necessarily micromanage it to that level, but I'm not comfortable going over the previously approved 535.
That makes sense to me.
Other thoughts at all? Or I guess we need a motion, Sonia? Okay, of some kind.
So they've got the 535 right now. If they wanted to change the graphics, would they need to come to us to do that, or is that something that can be handled at the staff level?
I think it could be handled at the staff level. And just to clarify how the math would add up on the screen here, they're actually proposing 379 square footage on the entire building outside of the two big locks. So it'd be that 379 plus if you wanted to do one of the locks, it would be, so 379 plus 143 would be 522. So if you wanted to craft a motion to cap it at that or at the 535, like the mayor was suggesting, and distribute it how they see fit, we could handle that at the staff level, if you're comfortable with that.
So I guess the question is, are we moving to approve this at what they already have and leave it to staff discretion, which I think it already is, or just denying it? Because what are we really approving?
I guess if we would deny it, it would say that they can't make any changes, I would think. Whereas if we approve it, as essentially allowing staff to approve any changes as long as it stays 535 square feet total or less, then they can
It leaves it open
rearrange
for
it
the
as they
changes.
want. Yeah, yeah. Emily, did you have a question? Okay. Other thoughts, questions, or an emotion?
I would move approval of a minor amendment to modify the signage standards for 5237 Verona Road with an upper limit of 535 feet with the final design per staff approval,
Square feet, not feet.
square feet.
Yeah.
Second.
Seconded by Stephen. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, then that is approved as motioned. Thank you, Ellie, for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, next we have a public hearing and consideration of comprehensive development plan amendment request for CDPA 238721, Orchard Point. And looks like we've got both Matt and Trim here to speak to this. If you want to come up to one of the microphones, that'd be great. Just kind of let us know what you're doing here.
Okay, thank you. Do I have to hit anything to talk, or?
Nope, you're good right now. We got to turn it on for you.
All right. So this proposal, basically the driving force of this is they have a buyer for the existing building and site. Sonia, I don't know, can you put up maybe the proposed site plan with the aerial photo? That might be the easiest one to talk from. That's probably be the next. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Can you use the portable microphone?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right here.
Yeah, you'll have to turn that one on, but, yeah, because then people at home can still hear you. We got one of our planning commission members at home, so I'll make sure he can hear you.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So we have the existing site right now. This area is vacant. It's been this way for years. Chardon Properties has a buyer for this lot. And both the CSM and CDP amendment is to support that. All of the, basically, all the functions as it currently stands is going to stay the way it is. Requirements when Lot 2 develop, there's a lot of things that are deferred until then. I mean, we're not asking for any, right now it's just a vacant parcel that we're asking to create. As part of this, one of the comments of the fire department was to be able to make sure we had access through in case there was ever a blockage. So we added the fire access easement that connects Limestone Lane with Nesbitt Road. And we also added utility easements up here. Right now, the utilities come in here. There's a transformer and then cable TV and telephone pedestal here that serves this. It's actually beyond the existing easement, so the extension of this easement will actually include that and then also go all the way over here. There's an existing easement now along Limestone Lane, so this will provide a contiguous easement all the way through and also provide future service to Lot 2.
All right. Anything else, or should we have the staff report?
I think that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
All right, great. Sonia, do you want to do a staff report, please?
So the two agenda items, B and C, are related. We'll need two separate motions. The first is for a comprehensive development plan amendment, and that's to the Orchard Point Comprehensive Development Plan. This CDP has been amended a number of times, and we saw it recently within the last couple of years, brought forward by the same property owner. At that time, there was a proposed daycare that was driving that CDP amendment. That didn't happen, so that CDP wasn't recorded. The CSM that we reviewed in the past wasn't recorded, but the CDP still reflected that proposed development. So a lot of the updates that they did to the CDP with this amendment are just cleaning that up, removing the reference to the daycare, removing the reference to an additional lot that they were proposing at that time, and otherwise ensuring consistency with regional things like stormwater. For the certified survey map, likewise, it's just creating Lot 2, subdividing it from Lot 1. And the staff recommendation is for approval. For the CDP, there are 4 conditions, and those are all standard conditions. For the CSM, we're proposing 5, which are all very standard, and then we'd also like to add a 6th condition. This came from Public Works staff earlier today, just to make sure that there's no confusion of this issue in the future when it does develop. So the recommended condition number 6 is that water and sanitary laterals shall be installed to Lot 2 prior to the development of Lot 2. That's really how we do things anyway. The laterals don't need to come in right now at the time of CSM approval. It's just stating for the record that it's the developer's responsibility to extend those 2 things in order to service the property.
All right. Then I will open the public hearing for the comprehensive development plan amendment. I don't have anyone from the public to speak to that, so seeing no one from the public, I will close the public hearing and open it up to questions or comments from plan commissioners. Any thoughts at all? Seems pretty standard overall. We've done these a number of times. No, hearing no concerns. Someone wants to do a motion, you can do that as well.
I'll move approval of the CDP amendment, CDPA 2387-21, with the 4 conditions as set forth by staff.
Second.
Seconded by Ed. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, and then we also have the CSM, same thing, nothing additional, I would imagine. Any other comments or questions at all? Nothing from staff, all right.
I'll move to approve certified survey map CS 2388-21 with the 6 conditions as noted by staff.
Seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is also approved. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got the CSM, CS 237121. I know Amy is online from Circo. Amy, would you like to tell us what's going on with this one?
Sure, I'm actually going to defer to Matt Hossie. He was
All
on
right.
as well. He's our engineer. But I'll stay on for any further questions.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, to kind of give an overview here. So in March of this year, we had a ADR review and submittal for driveway improvements out here at CertCo. And this CSM, as well as those previous ADR items that you had reviewed and approved in March, are all really related to kind of the culmination of completion of the Verona Road, McKee Road, Sprocket Drive, all of the kind of right-of-way improvements that have surrounded CertCo over the several past years. So the driveway improvements, getting a new access, but the certified survey map here in front of you tonight is kind of the, I won't say final step, but one of the final steps to kind of keep things moving for CertCo. And really the objective here is just to conglomerate all of the existing individual tax parcels that CertCo has owned for many years. There's also been a few parcels that were excess right-of-way from the old Verona Road. There's the old cul-de-sac right-of-way that CertCo took ownership of per agreements in their agreement with the DOT when the right-of-way was changed along Verona Road. Then there was also the infamous blue triangle that was deeded back to CertCo as well, up in the far northwest corner of their property. So just kind of taking all of those tax parcels and getting them under one tax parcel ID for CertCo, ease of everything for tracking on their end. So that's really the primary objective of this CSM, and there's other cleanup items that are additional agenda items here tonight, as far as some additional easements, releasing of a few, and creation of some new easements that are kind of a domino effect here. So that's an overview. And on this CSM, there is an additional 7-foot dedication along Sprocket Drive for the right-of-way.
And I think you maybe were online already at the beginning of the meeting, but I want to make sure you know that we did move G and H up right after this, so you can get them all taken care of right away, so you don't have to sit around.
Yeah, that much appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sonia, do you want to do a staff report, please?
Summarized well by the applicant, it's basically a combine and clean up CSM. The recommendation is for approval. There are 6 conditions. I'll just point out 2 of them. Item number 2 is regarding public sanitary sewer easement release. That's one of the agenda items that follows this. And then number 3 is the public water main easement recording, and that's also one of the agenda items that will follow this. So those 6 conditions are fairly standard, nothing else to point out. We would like to propose another condition on this as well, and this came out of clarification with Public Works staff regarding the location or the width of the public water main easement. And it's really quite minor, but we just want to get this updated on the CSM. So on the west side of the property, the water main easement is labeled as a 12-foot easement. In actuality, it gets wider as you go north towards Sprocket, and it's something like 13 feet. That's all reflected correctly in the geometry and the detail of the easement, but the label just conflicts with that. So we'd like to have that cleaned up and just changed to public water main easement instead of 12-foot water main easement.
Sonia, I guess just for a clarification there, so the 12-foot public water main easement that you pointed out here on the kind of the southern part of CERTCO's property that is already executed and recorded as the document number as shown on the certified survey map. That is a 12-foot easement. In conversations with Public Works staff, I believe she was referring to, basically, there's the second half of the easement that's on the northern portion of the lot, which hasn't been recorded. And so this area, we would just change this to be a public water main easement, not defining a width, because the width does vary up here due to some geometry changes that do not exist on the southern half. And the reason this easement is split up into two pieces is because of the old cul-de-sac right-of-way that has been now deeded to CERTCO and is part of their lands. That easement didn't need to exist before that deed execution occurred because that was public right-of-way.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that clarification, Matt. So only the label on the northern, the new easement portion would change, and the one on the southern part would remain the same as shown on the CSM. Okay.
All right. Anything else, Sonia? Nope. All right, then I can open up to questions or comments from Planning Commission.
So Sonia, that eliminates the need then for the seventh condition on this one?
I think the need for the condition still remains, but it's just more specific only to the northern portion or the new area dedicated. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's great to clean this up and make it a little bit simpler instead of having all these remnants. That seems really complicated and convoluted for no reason.
Move approval of CS 2375-21 with the 7 conditions as noted by staff.
Second.
Sent by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. And now we'll go down to G, Resolution R 125-21. And I don't know if Matt or Amy, you want to speak to this at all, or if you just want staff to go ahead.
I can give a brief overview for both of these. So the stormwater easement, really a very, very small easement. I'll let Sonia scroll to the exhibit. So as part of the stormwater improvements that we're making with the driveway improvements, we're tying into the existing storm sewer along Military Ridge Path. And the portion of the storm sewer does encroach on the city's lands on the Military Ridge. So per Public Works staff, we are just doing a small easement until the first manhole that's completely within the right-of-way. The public utility will take ownership of the line from there, but we will just, CERTCO will maintain, I guess, ownership and maintenance responsibility of the short stretch that is inside of the right-of-way for the Military Ridge Path.
All right. Sonia, staff report?
Nothing to add. The recommendations for approval.
All right. Any comments or questions? Or motion?
I move to approve Resolution R 125-21.
I'll second.
Sent by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. All right, that one's approved. And what about H? Matt, do you want to speak to this again quick?
Yes, I can do that as well. So H is the release of the sanitary sewer easement, or I should say easements, and then creation of the water main easement, which we've kind of already touched on the CSM item. So here's the leg of the new water main easement that will be created. That width does vary throughout the easement. So that is being created prior to the recording of the CSM, and then release of the sanitary sewer easements. So there are 2 existing sanitary sewer easements on the CERTCO property that run up an existing lot line, a 15-foot and a 5-foot, to combine for a total of a 50-foot. This sewer has been determined to be a private sewer at this point now because it is only serving 1 tax parcel with the combination of all these remnants. So Public Works is releasing the public utility responsibilities to this. So as such, we're releasing these easements, and this will become basically a long private sewer lateral for the Certco property.
Sonia, anything to add?
Staff recommendations for approval.
All right, questions or comments or motions?
I move to approve Resolution R 12421.
Second.
Seconded by Stephen. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is also approved. All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll jump back up to E, the public hearing and consideration of Comprehensive Development Plan CDP 237921. This is Fitchburg Minerals, and do we have someone online or here for that? No, no one online? All right, someone, do you want to speak to this then?
We talked about this in a little bit more detail last month. This is the new subdivision proposed by Fitchburg Minerals, south of Lacey, east of Fitrona Road. We talked about the challenges with grading and the access that needed to be clarified, and they're still working through that. So at the request of the applicant, they want this to be tabled again to July.
All right,
So moved.
Second.
seconded by Stephen. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is tabled. And F, public hearing and consideration of ordinance 2021-0011 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR 0121. And we've got a number of people here, I think, to speak to this. I don't know who wants to come up and speak to this one, if David or Grant or Diane, or you're all welcome to come up and let us know what's going on here.
I can start with the overview, and then we can figure out which direction we're going to go. I'm David Fahey. My family is farmed, and I still farm on Irish Lane for over 160-plus years, 1855. I live on Irish Lane. I grew up in Fitchburg, lived in my grandparents' house. In 2009, the McGaw Neighborhood Plan was approved. We had 62 acres in the initial phase of it, which we have been developing, and that was approved in 2017. We are on phase 5, which we hope to complete within the next month, if everything goes well, and that will complete out the initial 62 acres. We have 33, 34 homes still available right now, including the new phase that we're bringing online. That was 194 apartments and 102 single-family homes. In 2017, late 18, we had council approval to apply for CARPC amendment to add an additional 89 acres into the CARPC plan, which was approved in 2020. And we are proposing to come in with, if we get the approval of this planning zoning tonight, with 5 acres for the institution, reducing some R2 to R1, which will allow us to do 260 single-family homes and about 228 multifamily homes on a 12-acre site. So that was the overall up to speed. I can stretch it out or shorten it if you want me to change on that. Then I guess we can go back up to the second one. So this is the 89 acres currently in the McGaw Neighborhood Plan. The blue is currently the 10-acre school site. We are asking to reduce that to 5 for St. Ambrose, and Grant can talk about the school in a few minutes. The yellow, how am I going to describe this? Closest to the council will be the 228 multifamily site, and then the area further away from the council members, we are moving that to single family, and that's McGaw Park is up in the upper corner. Then we can go to the next one, I guess. This is the current, I like this, someone referred to these as cartoons, but sketch. And again, the area in the middle, the blue is the 5-acre site, and then the area below that is the 5 acres that we are requesting to be rezoned to single family. And then again, the multifamily is closest to you, and the area closer to McGaw Park is the area that we are asking to get rezoned to single family from the R2. We still will meet the 5 per acre on the single family. We do have the numbers were not arbitrarily set. We are maxing out our sewer capacity, and we do have 2 sewer zones that we have to flow to, and we have balanced that out, and we'll be able to meet the requirements on that. I don't know if there's questions on that one yet. Then we go to the next slide is the multifamily. This is a proposed layout of the 228 units. It borders up to the tech camp. I think it's still called the tech campus. Promega's warehouse is on the upper left corner, kind of off of Micah Road. We don't quite own all the way over to Micah. There will be a little sliver on Bowman's that will run along this site between the road that we proposed in Micah. The upper buildings will be 3-story with underground parking. I call them the 24 units and 16 units will also have underground parking. And then we will go to 2-story, which is kind of the purple units, as we transition to the single family. And then I think the last slide was just some numbers that I already talked about. So there's our institution. The Bengala neighborhood plan was 10, 260, 265, and we're proposing 5, 228, and 260. So we'll let Grant speak, or I can answer questions.
Yeah, Grant wants to speak about the St. Ambrose Academy.
Yeah, St. Ambrose is a private Catholic school. We started in 2003. We've been existing on the west side of Madison. We are presently at around 120 students in grades 6 through 12. Our mission and why we exist is to assist parents in the formation of their children by providing a classical education rooted in a warm and supportive Catholic community. And we're basically the only one around. So part of what we have is we're Catholic and we're a classical education. So we're not, a lot of what we do is in small groups, Socratic method, original sources. So we've been around 17 years, going on 18 years now. And for probably the last 10 years, we've been looking for a permanent home. We've been sharing space with a Catholic parish, St. Thomas Aquinas, west side of Madison. And we're basically outgrowing our space. And so we're looking for a land that would accommodate grade 6 through 12. We generally operate with numbers, space that seems smaller than what is often looked at or used in a public school, mainly because a lot of our classes are in small group, very kind of teacher-facilitated kind of discussion type classroom. The reality is we are a private school. Nearly 50% of our student body gets financial aid, tuition assistance. We draw from basically throughout the entire Dane County. Some people travel up to 50 miles to come to our school. So we're looking for one of our things we were looking for was something that was kind of centrally located in the county. And, there's no perfect spot. The lakes have a tendency to disrupt that because we have families coming from the north, east, west, and south, literally from every corner of the county. And so when this property came up, one of our issues was simply financially, 10 acres is too much for us to accommodate. But we know we needed at least a minimum amount. And so that's really where our discussions with David have been all along is, how do we balance the cost value of what we need? It's been a lot of excitement in the last 3 months or so as our relationship has deepened and done more work into figuring out how this is going to play out. Yes, if we had infinite amount of money or even significantly more, that would be great. But all our planning has been within 5 acres. And so a lot of our discussions with David is, how do we maximize the use of that? So, that's really what you see here is really a back and forth conversations about, okay, how stormwater is handled. How do we maximize our green space? How do we maximize our view? We understand that we're in a prominent place right off the cul-de-sac there. So, we adapted the site plan or our concept plan to accommodate kind of the facing aspect of the school to the neighborhood. So that's really the biggest part has been the back and forth working with David in order to make something that accommodates the wide range of things that are going on here, from financial to size of school growth. We expect a school size of around 240-ish. We've got, if you think of 7 grades, 2 sections of 20, you get about 280. So that would be about what the most that we can comprehend. If you look at demographics, what people are looking for, because we're looking for a certain type of student. They got to be Catholic or want to be Catholic. We accept, you don't have to be Catholic to go there, and you want to have a classical education. That's a pretty tight, narrow demographic. So we think our numbers support 250 over the long term. So that's really why and how we've been driving all our sizes. So.
All right, thank you. If there's anything else I can have Sonia do a staff report, unless there's anything else you want to add right now, but we'll have questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think Grant did send Sonia a sketch of the school site too that we did not show yet.
All right. So you want to do staff report?
So staff report, I'll touch on sort of process, summarizing the request, and then third, the McGaw plan. So for newer plan commission members, this is at the, I'm just going to switch screens here. It's at the high level policy stage. The comprehensive plan and future land use is that long range vision and plan. Any future entitlements that the developer would come forward with need to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's zoning, future platting, and just general development. What we're looking at here is a minor comprehensive plan amendment by our own plan policy that's allowed. We can consider those on 2 different occasions per year. So this is the first round, and this is the only amendment that we received for this spring round of comprehensive plan amendments. But comprehensive plan amendments are also governed by state statute, so Chapter 66. So that's why the agenda items are written the way that they are. For example, the statute requires that the Plan Commission pass a resolution by a majority of the members and then also make a recommendation on an ordinance, which the council would then vote on. So the council would need to also vote on this after the Plan Commission recommendation and after a 30-day public comment period. How that works out in dates would take us to the earliest date that the council could vote on this would be July 27th of this year. And then a summary of the request. Basically, they're looking to change 18 acres, and I think the map that best summarizes that is this item number 2. This is the growth model map from the McGaw Park Neighborhood Plan, and it changes 5 acres of the blue institutional use, which is specifically reserved for a school, to R1, which is the residential category of 5 dwelling units per acre minimum. And then they're also requesting to change 13 acres in the northeast corner from R2, which is a minimum residential density of 10 dwelling units per acre, down to that lower category. So 18 acres in total. The rest of the changes that you can find on this document are all just to make things consistent with that map. So we're also needing to change our general land use map, which is further defined by the McGaw Park map for consistency purposes. So the same 5 acres would go from that institutional, which is hatched in pink, to the most comparable category in the McGaw plan. MDR stands for medium density residential. That matches best with the R1 in the McGaw plan. Similarly, the 13 acres would change from high density residential to medium density residential. So that's just to make these consistent. And then there are a number of text modifications that get pretty specific based on the estimated units and the estimated amount of parkland dedication that would come from the dwelling units developed. All of that is summarized in the table 8.7, and this applies to the McGaw Park plan overall. So there are categories in here that don't specifically relate to what the request is before you tonight. For example, they do not have a mixed-use center within this specific amendment, but it's included in this table because it's relative to the McGaw Park overall. And then finally, just a little bit more of a summary on the McGaw Park plan overall, just for the Plan Commissioner's information. This was adopted in, I think, 2009 or 2010. The first portion was brought into the urban service area in 2010. And then as referenced, the last 89 acres were just brought in to the urban service area in 2020. Generally, there's this larger transit-oriented development node to the east at where Nobel would extend and Lacey. And then over to the west side, you have more of a mixed-use business park on the Bowman lands and south of the tech campus. And then in the middle is the lower density residential combined with the institutional school site. This plan had aspirations to achieve LEED neighborhood design status, which has various qualifying factors, mostly which just promote compact, walkable development and smart land use planning. So one of the things in the middle of this neighborhood plan that promotes that is the walkability and relationship of all these land uses to the school site. So all of the transportation networks are specifically planned out and detailed in that plan. So you have your major thoroughfare coming through with bike lanes and appropriate sidewalks and all those things, and be in walkable proximity to the school site. I think the 10 acres was also generally proportionate to that, and a little bit more of a viable size if you were looking to attract like a public school district site, for example. So I think that is the McGaw plan in a nutshell, and can address any questions that come up.
All right, first I need to open the public hearing. So that is open, but there's no one. Actually, I did have Diane Marsland from Madison register in support of the above matter. And that's the only person from the public to speak. So seeing no one else from the public, I will close the public hearing, and I can open up to comments, questions from planning commissioners. And I can just start on a couple things. I think there's 2 pieces to it. One is reducing industrial lot, the school lot, if you will, from 10 acres to 5 acres, also rearranging where some of the high density is. But to me, I think that I really like where the mix of units is at right now. That's one of the things that I've been concerned about for a long time, is having so many apartment units come in Fitchburg. and this has a good balance. And, you know, David talked about, they've maxed out the amount of use they can have that the sewer and water can actually fulfill, but I think it's a great mix. I really like actually the apartments, how there's a mix of apartments even there. I think that's a unique thing that you don't see other places where you've got a little bit bigger building, a medium-sized building, and smaller buildings. That's a really innovative, unique way of having that and transitioning to the residential, so I really like that a lot. Other than that, I think when Oregon was looking at a school site, they thought 10 acres was too small, actually, I believe.
We were willing to go higher on it, but Oregon chose to go over in Terra Vista for their new elementary school. And their middle school is planned for, I'm sure everyone knows, by the other corner of Fitchburg. And when they do that, I mean, the initial plan was 2025. They would change their current fifth, sixth grade to their, I'm going to get it wrong. They have 4 elementaries now. That would be, they would change to 5 elementary schools and then go to a fifth, sixth, seventh, or fifth, sixth model.
And so I think one of the other things too is that this site was a little bit too close to the border of the Oregon district for them. Is another piece to that. You know, this is a little bit west for them. So I think that if St. Ambrose can make 5 acres work, I'm not one to say what they need or don't need for space. That's up to them. But I do like some of the changes and some of the ways that we're kind of rearranging what we have up here. But I want to open up to other questions or comments from other people as well. Ed?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One, Sonia, can you kind of clarify what the issue is with the strip of land that is not part of Fahey Fields, it's part of Bowman, and how that road's going to get connected to Micah? Is that?
Micah goes straight.
Yeah, it's in.
It's originally they were going to go to the border line, but when they built Micah through the tech campus, they straightened it out. So there will be a little bit of strip of land that Bowman will have there.
Is the road connection already built, or is it still?
No, it still needs to be built at some point.
But it will be built across the Bowman land then?
Both Micah and the future streets would have to be built on Bowman's when they propose.
Oh, I see. So the timing on that is,
It's up to Bowman's.
okay. Sonia, is that, I mean, from a traffic circulation standpoint, is that not a problem or a problem, or?
Right, I think you're referring to when,
Yeah, just the timing, that it could be, I mean, it's indefinite, it could be a long time down the road, or it could be soon, but do we have, you know, the traffic circulation that we need to serve what's going in here without that connection being made?
I think we would look at that in a little bit closer detail when we look at the preliminary plat, and at that time, we'd make sure that there's adequate safety access and circulation within each of the phases that they're proposing. But we can't proceed now with any improvements to the east, like sewer or road connections, things like that, because it's not in the urban service area.
Oh, okay.
So, also just wanted to show this aerial photo. I'll take this color off, but here's Micah. And I believe the extent of the Fahey lands is this parcel and this parcel.
Yes.
Close that. And then the school district boundary, Oregon, is red.
So this is way over to the west. This isn't even close to where the school site would be or the
No.
changes that are
No,
being.
it would only, and the main flow would be out of the apartment complex and flow into the roundabout, which should design to flow everything to Noble to the roundabout, and then they can go either Fahey, Glen, or Noble.
Okay,
So I think there's adequate flow, and we will have 2 access points to, as we, whatever, if we, I don't know, haven't decided on a name yet. Some people refer to it as Fahey South, but I don't know if that will be permanent. We will have 2 access points.
okay. The other question I had is did this go to Parks, and was there a recommendation from Parks with regard to these changes?
The council did refer it out last Tuesday to the Plan Commission and to Parks.
Parks hasn't met yet. They'll meet.
Parks hasn't met
They'll
yet.
meet July 1, something like that. Whatever the first Thursday in July is.
So whatever they're recommending will go to council at the same time as our recommendation. Okay.
Other, Steven?
Just a question, Sonia, did you say that this is in the urban service area?
Right, it's only the 89 acres that are bound by sort of this yellow line to the south where the power lines go east-west and then back up north to around the Micah Road. So it's just that 89 center portion.
So the scope of this project is within the urban?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, was it last year, I think, you got approval from?
August
Herbst?
2020.
Yeah.
And the school district is the property line. In 1960, when they divided Fitchburg up into 3 districts, my father and grandfather chose to be in Oregon, and that's how the school district got formed. I can explain the history if you want more.
We'll stick to this for now. Steven?
I was just gonna say, can we update our maps then? Because I've been referencing everything that's out on the Fitchburg City website, and it doesn't show that. So I was really confused looking through this whole presentation going, how is this in an urban service area?
Sorry about that. We can update those.
Other questions at all?
I had one. The housing that you're moving from like R2 residential to R1, the single-family homes, are those, what price point are those going to be at? Are they more entry level or market rate or?
They will be at market rate. I mean, depending on what the lumber prices do in the next year.
Yeah,
Nothing's.
Define, I mean, what do you define market?
right, yeah.
I know one of the things that staff and myself is concerned about too is just the number of inventory of lots in the city, because they are going fast, even as expensive as it is. Everything's going fast. I know that you've done well with sales and some of our developments in the city have, and want to keep that pipeline going, because the worst thing that could happen is continued demand and we can't satisfy that demand. In fact, even now, we're probably under what the demand is. Other comments or questions at all? Or we can also do motions. There's 2, I guess. One is the ordinance, and one is the resolution. And there's no, it's only from staff, there's no conditions or anything like that. Neither one of these is there.
No conditions.
I'll move approval of Plan Commission Resolution 01-21.
Seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. And then we also have the ordinance as well. If someone wants to approve the ordinance.
I move we recommend approval of ordinance 2021-0-11.
Second.
Seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 That is also
Thank you,
approved.
and thank you to Sonia and staff for all the hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we can keep moving. We did G and H already, so we're down to I, Resolution R 6521. And is this just a staff one, Sonia?
Yeah.
Not just a staff one. You're the star on this one, though.
Right, yes. I'll cover it. And it's really exciting. We're just going to want to table this. Again, last month, we didn't have the agreement needed to act on this for the Lacey Road improvements to cross the Badger State Trail, waiting on other state agencies to get that completed.
All right, is there a motion to table?
Motion to table until July?
I'll second.
Seconded by Rich. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, nay. All right, that is tabled. All right, what about J?
The Plan Commission needs to vote on the capital improvement plan every year to make a recommendation basically on its consistency with the comprehensive plan. So in the staff memo, we reviewed just a few of the more notable projects. And I guess if there are any questions, I think the mayor would be best suited to answer those. But staff has found no conflicts with those major projects and would recommend approval.
I can tell you it's a phenomenal CIP budget. I don't see how you could say anything is wrong in there, of course. One of the-
I'll
Oh, no, well, you're not up yet. You're not up yet. Well, hold on. I'll get to you. I know one of the things that you maybe have heard about is this ARPA funds that we're getting as a city. And so we're getting a little over $3 million from the state for that. And we're trying to figure out what are the guidelines. We actually don't know all the guidelines yet, but they're still going to give us the money. We got to apply for it this week, but we will be getting that money. I know that it looks like some of the things that are options to pay for are like storm water and sewer type projects. So those are some things that we might be able to take off of the backs of our taxpayers and use that money towards that. Broadband in rural areas is another one, it looks like, and there might be a few others in there as well. But that's going to be a separate process we're going to do, kind of like we do with the budget anyway, is kind of say, okay, here's the money we have, and here's the projects that I'm going to propose as the mayor to council, and then I'm sure there'll be amendments, and we'll kind of go from there on the best way to spend that. We've got a few years, I believe, to spend everything, but other than that, it's always a hard budget. You know, this is kind of the bigger projects. The operating budget comes later. There's a lot of needs there, and there's always more needs and more ideas than money available, but I tried to balance some of the things we have to do and trying to fit into the requirements that we have. Town of Madison's coming online in just over a year, and that's going to put a lot of stress on a lot of different departments as well. So, if there's any questions about anything in particular, I can answer those.
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me the most was it would be the bullet point 2 and 3, I guess, under the staff evaluation regarding the Fitchburg Road stormwater improvements and then Fitchburg Road improvement. Delaying those while we would have otherwise been looking at 5E earlier today, which is now going to be in July's meeting, it seems contradictory. We're looking at expanding Lacey. We're looking at putting in possibly quite a bit of building on the south side of Lacey, just east of Fitchburg, and then we've got a road that is flooding every other year on average. So any comment to that or anything to make me feel a little bit better about that?
Yeah, one, town of Verona is hopefully doing some improvements to Goose Lake to prevent the flooding from being an issue, or it just doesn't rain like this year, and that's not a problem. But I think the biggest issue with Fitchburg Road is that we only own half of it, and the town of Verona doesn't want to put money into it. They say that their residents don't use it because they have such a small amount of their residents that live in that area. They'd rather spend money on the west, essentially on the other side of the city of Verona. And that's always been the problem. They just want to put Band-Aids on it, and that road isn't great, but I don't want to pay for all of it ourselves either. So we're trying to figure out how to work with them so they can actually put some money towards this, because there are things that are going to put more stress on Fitchburg Road that we don't have anything to do with. The new Costco in Verona is going to put more traffic on this road. You know, Verona continues to grow this way, but they're not going all the way to at least Fitchburg at this point. And so it's actually on my to-do list is get back to the the chairman of the town of Verona, talk with him a little bit more. But it is a problem, and they always say, oh, we don't have any money, don't have any money. In fact, when we built the roundabout at Nesbitt Road, the town of Verona should have paid for at least a portion of that, a small portion, and they didn't, because they said, oh, poor us, don't have any money, don't have any money, and we just kind of said, it has to be done, and Fitchburg bared the cost of that, unfortunately, and subsidized them a little bit.
But what reason is there to think that that's going to change in 2 years?
Well.
I mean, because
I think they got our number.
I think it's as more development from the city of Verona happens that way. I think the hope is that there's maybe the city of Verona comes in, or we can find other funding sources. You know, maybe there's grants and stuff like that. And we have to balance out the budget. You know, we can't do everything in 1 year. And the focus right now is on updating Lacey Road as well. And so that was part of it too, is Lacey Road and the Lacey and Seminole intersection. Those projects are happening. Right now, design is happening, hoping to build most of that next year. And so those things had kind of gone a little bit quicker because there's a lot of development happening in that area as well.
I think I agree with Steve. I think this is got to get done before we put more development out in that area. I know we're just in the planning stages right now. So, but from a timing standpoint, the sooner the better. Is the thought that possibly some of this 3 million that we have coming in could be applied to this and then it would get moved up if that were to happen?
And maybe, it depends on what the guidelines are. I don't know if that's gonna be something we can use or not, and hopefully I don't know if the town of Verona is even getting any of that money because of their size, but, that's a possibility. I guess part of it will come down to, do we just pay for the whole thing? And I'd rather not. That's a big, expensive road, as you know, roads are expensive. But, I think as more development pressure comes forward, I think that, we need to look at options to essentially hold their town's feet to the fire a little bit to try and get them to come to the table with more.
Are there options?
Not good options, probably. I think that's something as staff we need to talk about a little bit more as well.
Are we doing some joint planning work with the city of Verona? This seems like this isn't really their problem. It's not their road. But have there been discussions there between you folks and their staff?
Not at the planning level. I'm not sure what the sort of engineering and public works conversations have been. But there might be an opportunity to further have those conversations if we start engaging the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood planning process, at least in a more sort of organized manner for that future huge chunk of development, but nothing with planning staff in the more immediate past.
Okay.
And I think as you get towards like Whalen Road where that crosses Fitch-Verona, I think those lands are more likely to go to the city of Verona. Who knows how soon, but sooner than later. I think the hardest part is where the development is already happening in the town of Verona. And so those lands are, I'm not gonna say they're not gonna go to the city of Verona or Fitchburg. I don't think they would ever go to Fitchburg, but I think it's more difficult to convince the town of Verona to give that stuff up versus the farm fields that are more up towards Whalen Road where, that whole section is just gonna go at one big fell swoop to the city of Verona. So hopefully part of Fitch-Verona, the city of Verona comes up to, I think you get a challenge essentially where Lacey Road hits Fitch-Verona. The town's been developed in that spot, and I don't know, that's a city and town of Verona debate more than it is a Fitchburg debate, unless those people say they want to come to Fitchburg instead of Verona.
Fitch-Verona Road is in atrocious condition. It has been for some time. Mm-hmm. And if the town of Verona can't even contribute to improving that road, maybe they're not viable as an entity. I guess that's what I'm going to say. That's half their road. It's a mess. It's terrible.
Yep. Yeah. So is Whalen Road in the town of Verona. Mm-hmm. That's pretty terrible too.
We had a problem
Rich?
when we did the Corey Cove Park. Did we get part of that land into Fitchburg? Just north of the roundabout. It seems to me that there's a jog in Fitchburg property line and we got the property from town?
Yeah,
there might have been like a
that was
sliver
back
or something
during the
like that.
Orchard Point platting. There was a little piece there that came into.
And were any of you guys involved at that time?
I was, yeah.
So how difficult was that? Was this something?
I think it was something that they didn't want to deal with. I don't think they wanted it.
Oh.
And I don't think it was improved. There's nothing on it, was it, at that point? At that point in time, there wasn't much on it.
I think
there wasn't a bunch of houses, and that's.
Yeah, I don't know, behind the scenes what happened as far as how that came in. I don't know whether it was at the request of Fitchburg or at the request of the town. But by the time it came in front of us, this is the agreement, and
so just done.
We said fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions or comments at all?
The other one I wanted to ask about was the delay of the Lacey Seminole stormwater and how that kind of fits with Edgewood College's plans, which was going to be to create and maintain some of that. So I'm not sure why we have a delay here. It was, I guess, the fifth bullet point.
Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
on the top of page 9.
Okay. I believe that one is because it is like Edgewood is going to be part of that and making sure everything is coordinated along with that entire thing. And I know that we're doing some testing, I believe, right now as well in that area and trying to pump water out and see how that works. I believe that it's more of lining up with what we hope to do is a neighborhood plan for that South Storm Prairie neighborhood as well. And so there's things happening besides just this in that area to continue to help the stormwater. Even with Lacey Road getting reconstructed next year, that's going to help as well with that.
So the planning for this would be more part of that planning process.
Yeah, it's all connected and coordinated.
Okay. I mean, the needs already exist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The needs were there before anything was built out there.
Yeah.
Well, but, so Lacey Road construction is next year, but then we're postponing the stormwater on Lacey Road and Seminole back 2 years.
There is some stormwater with the Lacey Road construction. I think there's a couple of retention ponds being built as part of that.
Got it.
And I know that when Edgewood College does their project, there's going to be some stormwater mitigation as part of that and wetland restoration. And so really kind of coordinating with what they're doing for Edgewood as well. I know that's one of the things they talk about is want to make sure that they're part of the solution in that area.
So is there a fairly specific timeline for all of that?
Have you talked to Edgewood lately? I know they've talked to us and they're trying to go to Carp C possibly. I'll let you give an update.
Sure. So for Edgewood, back when we did the major comp plan update, the council ultimately gave us a little bit of direction in terms of first Edgewood would need to, before they could proceed with urban service area amendment, they'd need to meet 2 conditions. One was allow the city to complete this regional stormwater study and have a recommendation on that. And that was completed and presented to the committee of the whole, I think earlier this year, maybe in April. And there was a specific recommendation that came out of that from the committee of the whole meeting. So that contingency is satisfied. The second one was showing that that development could be served by gravity sewer. Their engineer just gave us something this week with stamped engineered seal saying that it could be served by gravity sewer. So essentially they've worked through those kind of contingencies and those big questions that were out there, and now they need to begin on the procedural steps. First is that urban service area amendment. We don't have any sort of draft application yet. And that will be a bit of an iterative process to put that together. Ultimately, the first formal action that would happen is the Plan Commission votes on a resolution telling us that it's okay to apply to Carp C. Then the council would vote on that, and then we'd go to Carp C. And there would be a public hearing, followed by action, followed by DNR approval. So the time frame for that whole sequence can change. It depends on how quickly the city and Edgewood work together on the application, if there are any questions at the city level to approve that resolution, and then whether Carp C thinks this is a good planning idea or not with the DNR.
So the change here in the time frame in the capital improvement budget, is it kind of fit hand in glove with that?
Sort of seems like it. 2022 was the original time frame. Edgewood's not ready for development in 2022, I would say. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions or thoughts at all? Complaints? And it looks like Sonia would like us to motion would be that we reviewed the projects from a land use standpoint and find them to be consistent with the comp plan. All right. Someone wants to do that motion.
So consistent with the comp plan as opposed to advisable? Just to clarify. Okay.
Well, more so when we have a project that is in one of these areas that's in the most at need and delayed areas, what are we as planners supposed to do?
So like if one of these you kind of said, well, we don't agree with delaying something essentially?
I'm saying that this procedurally is saying that as a plan commission, we agree with what's in the CIP and compared to what's in the comp plan and where we should be focusing our energy when things come before this body, right? And if something were to come here and, let's say, be right on one of these areas that is not well-funded or well-developed right now, how should that, or should that impact the way that we review such a plan?
So,
Or is, I mean, what I'm getting at, I don't, I think what I'm trying to say is that we as a body here have just kind of picked apart a few of these things that don't feel like they are in line with what projects we're already seeing come before us. And we're being asked to say, we reviewed this and we agree that this is in line with what we have as a planning document. So now when someone comes before us with something that fits the planning document, we've already just said it doesn't line up with some of these projects that are getting delayed. So to me, that they're out of step. And this feels very procedurally, we're saying rubber stamp, Plan Commission has looked at the CIP and we agree with where it's at. It doesn't feel like that just given the discussion we just had.
yeah, I guess it's not that we approve the CIP necessarily. I think it's more that we don't see, I think some of all these things that we want to have done, we agree need to be done. And if you look at the comprehensive plan, they need to be done. We may not agree with the timing with that, but I think that there's nothing in here that we kind of say, well, how could you ever want to do something with Fitchburg Road and improve that? You know, it's nothing that says, wait a minute, this project doesn't make sense. That's all. What I'm hearing anyway is the timing. We're you know, people are concerned about, but not necessarily the projects themselves.
Yeah, but we don't know what the timing is. I mean, there's planning going forward for those projects, and
Right.
maybe there is no intent to actually develop them for 4 or 5 years, and if we thought that that were the case, then maybe we wouldn't see a conflict here. But if the idea is that some of those may be coming sooner than that, then I think, is that the point you're making, Stephen?
Yeah,
If it is, I agree.
I don't think I'd be this acutely aware of it if it wasn't for the thing that we looked at last month that was on today's agenda that we've now determined to be in the July agenda. It's right at this intersection of Lacey and Fitchburg where we're saying is some of the biggest problems and we're delaying by a number of years. And so I don't think I otherwise would have, you know, really thought through it that much or thoroughly, but looking at that going, well, what are we going to say next month when they say we're going to put in 200 homes here in an area that we know is not going to have the infrastructure put in for a number of years. Though, thank you for the explanation, Mayor, because I follow your logic in terms of if you were saying, here's our most important project is maybe Highway M or something on the very far southern boundary, we'd go, that is not consistent with where we've been planning. I can appreciate that. So, again, just I think more acutely aware because of what's been on the agenda.
Other questions or comments? Or a motion? You can change the wording if you want.
I'll move to approve resolution R118-21.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Randy. All right. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And opposed, nay.
Nate?
All right. That is approved. Report from the department, Sonia.
Yeah, I was asked to just provide a brief update on one of the applications that we reviewed last month. This was from applicant Dale Sticka to have amusement and recreation services within that building on Index Road. They were successful in being able to obtain an occupancy permit for that use, and the way they were able to do that was basically to reduce the area that was to be occupied, and closer consultation with the fire department and building inspection staff, as well as removal of that non-compliant auto repair use that was happening in the building. So that permit has been issued, and they have a authorized use then until the sunset date that the Plan Commission approved.
Could you
Yep.
just let us know when was that approval?
The occupancy permit, I think it was Friday, June 11th. Yep.
A month, not 2 weeks like he said he could. But
And then the other report item is just, our next meeting is July 20th, of course, but some people in the public follow referrals very closely, and just for the record then, our first July meeting for the council is canceled. So the normal process would have been for those plan commission items to be referred out on that date to the plan commission meeting, followed by action on the 27th. But instead, what the process will look like is plan commission action on July 20th, and then direct referrals on the council agenda. So it might look a little bit different to people.
So it's still going to everyone, but if you look at the referrals, if you use that as your indication of, I should probably go to these meetings, these are getting essentially direct referred. It's still going to everyone, but it's not that initial step at the council meeting. All right. When is the deadline for submissions for July?
June 22nd? Is that right, Lisa? Yep.
All right. Do you know if there's much that's been submitted so far?
Do you know what we have yet?
We haven't gotten any, but we're expecting a few.
Last second.
Yeah.
All right. Any announcements or questions for staff?
I was gonna ask this earlier and I didn't get a chance, but that minor comp plan amendment, was that the first one of the year? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I guess I will say, we are expecting the River Song applications to come through. So the new CSM and the ADR application.
In Terravessa,
Yeah, in
senior
Terravessa.
assisted living and senior and memory care facility. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Stephen. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.